Hello guys, welcome back to Dharma Geosphere. Today we'll be interacting with you all on the humanistic geography, the other arm of the behavioral geography. Thanks a lot for the very good response on my last video on the humanistic geography. So we continue today with the humanistic geography as a kind of an extension of the behavioral geography, which also involved the humans and their behavior. So the humanistic geography is also another very important school of thought, wherein the humanistic geography placed the human geography as the center, or brought in the humans as in the center stage and put humans in the core of the human geography, and it made people real, and also it was meant for the people. So in other words, the humanistic geography made itself a discipline, more of a social organization of space instead of the spatial organization of society. So how beautifully the geography has evolved from spatial organization of society to the social organization of space, wherein it was the man who is now at the center stage, and it is he who determined how the geography evolved as a discipline. So he played a very active role in this humanistic geography, both in terms of awareness, both and also as an agent, as a consultative and creative person in developing geography in this humanistic way. The humanistic geography drew inspiration from three very interesting ideologies or concepts. One was the idealistic approach, the other was phenomenology, and the third was extensionism. So all these three are important in their own way, and try to remember from the examination point of view at least one-liners so that you are able to quickly write down instead of writing something vague related to that. So idealism basically is thought behind the various actions of the humans. The phenomenology is the how people feel both consciously and subconsciously about the things or the objects around the world, and extensionism is about the experiences people gain from the world over time. So these three are just one-liners, just remember, so that whenever there is a short notes on any of these, you are able to hit the bullseye by writing the first sentence, which is directly the essence of what that concept is, instead of beating around the bush and writing vague sentences. Because even after that vague sentences, you write good examples and more meaningful sentences, the impression of the examiner is lost, because in the beginning you have written something which is not very correct or to the point of that particular concept. So idealism, two of the main propounders were Harris and Gulk. Harris had his own way of looking at idealism, and so was Gulk. So for Harris, it was the subject of both history and geography. He took it together and said that both of the subjects study the whole complex of the phenomena, and with a simple and a particular goal of synthesis. So according to him, both the history and geography as disciplines should follow the ideal path, so that as all the actions are based on personal theories. So his idea of very systematic philosophy of this idealistic thought was that the reality is residing in the mind of the people. In other words, this was also termed as the metaphysical idealism. So these 3 points are what Harris thought about his view of idealism. And Gulke, on the other hand, thought that the philosophy of idealism limits the human understanding and the perception of external objects. Here he thought that the idealism seeks to understand and develop the Earth's cultural landscape by uncovering the thought that lies behind them. So basically, for him it was clear that it was the cultural landscape of the man which gets uncovered based on the thought that lies behind what is there in the cultural landscape. Then he also further elaborated on his thought of idealism, saying that all actions result from a rational thought, from a construct present at the back of the decision maker or the individual in question. So that is how Gulk thought about idealism. Like that, we will now move on to the concept of phenomenology and also understand what is extensionism. So, from the idealistic approach, we move on to the other theory, that is the phenomenological approach, which inspired the humanistic geography. The phenomenal approach seeks to clarify the social constructions which form an essential conditions for social existence. This approach is critical of the positivist commitment to empiricism, as the positivist fails to recognize the difference between the objective and the behavioral environment. So that is how the concept or the approach of phenomenology becomes very important here. So to the phenomenologists, all cognitive experiences possess an intentional structure through which objects are made to mean something specific to an individual or a group. So one of the first to introduce phenomenology was Ralph in 2019. There was a question on the concept of space as propounded by Ralph and Thuan. So unlikely that the question will get repeated, but something related to that or could be phenomenology may actually come. So to the phenomenologist, there is no objective world independent of man's existence, and all knowledge proceeds from the world of experience and cannot be independent of the world. So the subjectivity of the phenomenologist research is the subject of being studied, not of the student. So this means that this theory describes or rather than explanation implies an observer's own construction of reality, which is antithetical to the phenomenologist's attempt to get back to the meaning of data of consciousness. So it was Yu-Fu Thuan who was another strong advocate of the approach of phenomenology in the humanistic geography, according to whom the humanistic geography achieves an understanding of the human world by studying people's relationship with nature, their geographical behavior as well as their feelings and ideas in regard to both space and place. So this is what was asked in the last year's main geography optional. I think it was a very interesting question, and many of you have done well, but those of you who have really done well and gave a very rounded answer were those who studied the geographical thought or the approach to geographical thought in a systematic way, in a chronological way, defining space during different regimes and the way geography evolved over time. So Thuan identified 5 major themes for research with a view to understand how geographical activities and phenomena reveal the quality of human awareness. So these were the nature of geographical knowledge, its role in human survival, the role of territory in human behavior, the interrelationships between crowding and privacy as mediated by culture, and the role of knowledge and influence on the livelihood, and the influence of religion on human activity. Tuan coined the term Tofufilla. It is more commonly used as Tofufilla to describe the effective bond that develops between people and place. So this bond which is very important, because I have also told about this bond to you in my very first video on the overview of the geographical thought taking place as an example. Please go through that video once again, because I have given some examples on how each of these geography experts gave or dealt with the term place according to what they experienced. So the concept couples sentiment with place and is closely akin to the Rice concept of geosophy. So Tofufilla concentrates on the study of places as carriers of emotionally charged feelings. Say for example, your village or your town or a place where you got your job first, or probably where a place you got into romance, or a place which changed your life, and a place which gave you a lot of adventure, etc. So you get attached to the place. You find some stickers at the back of the cars. So my life, my Las Vegas, my life, Chandigarh, something of that sort. So closely associated with the phenomenology is the philosophy of Extensionism. Both look at the environment from an experimental perspective. But the basic difference is that while the phenomenology assumes the primacy of the essence, the allocation of meaning which results from the existence of consciousness, whereas to the existence, the basic dictum is being before essence, or man makes himself. So that is the subtle difference between both. Of course, the process of defining oneself, that is creating an essence, involves creating the environment itself. Thus, environments can be read as biographies, as representations of man creating himself, how he adjusts, how he interfaces, how he customizes the environment in and around him according to his needs. So to the existentialist, for every landscape or every extensional geography, there is someone who can be held accountable. So this premise makes it necessary to treat landscapes as biographies, environment as biographies. So in some existential terms, the human geography becomes the history of man's encounter with himself in the anthropogenic world order. So since landscape reflect two primal needs of man's prospect, that is the need to search for a means of survival, and the refuge, that is the need to hide from forces that poses threat to survival. So to conclude this chapter, this concept of the humanistic geography, there are two primary characteristics of humanist geography. First is anthropocentric, that is, it focuses on how through human experience, human existence, space is transformed into place, and how the abstract notion of spatiality is transformed into dimensions of meaning, and distance becomes the language alternately of human relations and human alienation. So the second distinguishing epistemological characteristic of humanistic geography is its holism. That is, it's tendent to see phenomena in the total context, both man as he perceives and the environment as it reflects. So this is a very important concept, since I found that the examiners are focusing on this domain of the human geography, space getting transferred into place, and the importance of place in geography in the evolution of geographical thought. So, since humanistic geography is concerned with either the study of individuals and their phenomenal environment, or with the analysis landscapes as repositories of human being, it can't be easily evaluated. But unlike the other research in the positivist mode, humanistic work has no explicit criteria by which it can be assessed. Since here the purpose is not to increase explanation and predictive power, but to just improve the understanding. So we have moved from the predictive behavior of the behavioral evolution to towards a goal of better understanding of the man and human environment. So that is all as far as the humanistic geography is concerned. I have given you the essence out of all the 3 books. So just please remember to go through it, just keep listening to it, try to understand the basic difference between idealism, phenomenology and existentialism, and then move forward to understand what are its basic characteristics and see examples and see how place and space differ, how the social organization of space has come into being, replacing the spatial organization of space. Okay, so try to get hold of this very quickly. We do not have much time. I'll keep on posting more videos on the other chapters which are equally important. So guys, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay focused, and go and kill the geography optional, because all important questions that are going to come from the perspectives in human geography, that is what is the most scoring, because many find it very complex, they do not know where to start, where to go. But for each of the chapter I have given you the main points. It is not that I couldn't have covered it more exhaustively or more in details, but I know that there is the constraints of time, and you should also know that you can retain only a few important points. If you write these points and write it very articulatively, by comparing what you did before, what is that coming after that, you will score very well. Okay guys, then bye.